let's get going on Impact here before I fall asleep right here on the mic. If you hear like slobbering, if you hear like a thump and then slobber, I fell asleep on the mic.
Jeremy Borash opened Impact. He opened it in the ring. He announced they were going to... he was there to announce the fans' choice for Wrestler of the Year. The 5 nominees were Bully Ray, James Storm, Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, and Jeff Hardy. And he was about to announce the winner when, before he could, Aries and Roode both made their way down to the ring, both presuming they had won, arguing with each other about who deserved it more, and it turned out neither of them did, and in fact, Jeff Hardy won. So Storm and Bully Ray congratulated him and disappeared. Hardy came down, talked about how this is as important as the world title because the fans picked it. And Roode cut him off and said, I was the longest reigning champion of all time. I deserve this trophy. And Aries said, I was the longest reigning X Division champion of all time, and I beat you, Bobby Roode. I deserve this trophy.
They both had a valid argument.
There's a case to be made.
A case to be made for either of those two and literally none of the other three.
Jeff Hardy is champion right now. It's the best I got.
Sure.
So, Hardy said, whatever, we're having a 3-way at the pay-per-view. Went to grab his trophy. They lead him out. Went to hit him with the trophy. He ducked. One guy, I think it was Roode, got hit with it, and Hardy took out the other guy, and he left with his trophy, and it was a fun segment. Brian?
Yes.
Anything to add about this opening?
No, I'm trying to find some information. I was waiting for you to just continue on.
James Storm was backstage. Before they went to interview him, but before he could answer, Kaz and Daniels cut him off. They cut his promo for him, making him sound like a dumb redneck. He cut a fiery, passionate promo on these two dweebs, as he called them. And long story short, he dared one of them to come fight him in the ring. And Kaz volunteered Daniels, and it was a great segment that I can't do justice to, so I just won't try.
Trying to find out if Jeff Hardy had any sort of issues in 2012. But it looks like this was all in a prior year. But it was noted Daniels and Kazarian made a very good case as to why James Storm should not have even been in the running. And they were 100% correct. When he came out, I was baffled. This man failed at everything. He failed at everything in 2012. He did not win the title. He got a head start in the Bound for Glory series and lost. He didn't make it. They said he made it to the finals, but that was it. He didn't win. He just had one loss. He had one win over Bobby Roode, and then he got a championship match, and he lost that. So, and by the way, what a follow-up that was. He won the championship match, and then he lost it, and then that's it. He just never got it back.
Yeah.
A complete and utter loser in 2012. And somehow he was in the running.
He had,
Zema Ion had a better case than this fool.
He had 2 good months, but they were the 2 months before the finals of the tournament. They needed 5 guys. That's the best I can do. Anyway, Storm wrestled Kazarian, it turned out. The Daniels thing was a swerve by them. They acted like Daniels was going to wrestle, and Kaz jumped him from behind. Had a match. It was fine. It was short. Daniels tried to interfere, but it screwed up, and Kazarian jumped off the middle rope, landed into a super kick, and got pinned. Really, the only thing notable here was that Kaz came out in a Kazamania t-shirt and was only on screen very briefly. I couldn't quite tell if this was actually his shirt they're selling at the merchandise stand or if he just bought a Hulk Hogan shirt and taped his own name over it. It's great either way.
Well, I can find out.
I didn't see it on the website.
Oh, you looked?
Yeah. That's their music is available to purchase.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he probably made his own shirt then.
May have.
Actually, let's check Fallen Angel ChristopherDaniels.com because he sells a lot of shirts. Let's see what he's got here in terms of the Prophecy Shop, it's called. He's got a World's Greatest, or World Tag Team Champions of the World shirt. He's got a Daniels and Kaz shirt. There's a Fallen Angel shirt, which, interestingly enough, Kazarian is wearing and not himself. Curry Man shirt. Bunch of 8x10s. That's it. So I guess Kazarian must have made that shirt up.
Excellent.
How about that?
We had a shot of the aces and eights in their clubhouse. They were pushing Mr. Anderson to make a decision. He tried to stall for time, indicated he was not done having sex with the women yet. And finally, Doc demanded he give an answer. And Anderson handed Doc his hammer and said, "We're not going to show Sting an ounce of fear." And they were all very happy, and then Devon noted his bat was missing.
What, jumping forward here, because state of my foggy brain I'll forget by the end. What was the payoff with this Mr. Anderson fool?
He was there for the main event angle, although he didn't take part.
On any side, he was just there.
His presence was observed.
How about that? All right, move on.
Kenny King ran into Kid Cash backstage, sucked up to him, and said they were going to fight in the finals of the little mini tournament they're having next week. And
he sucked up to him, saying, "I used to watch you on VHS."
Well, that's what he said. Yeah. Okay, sucked up to him may not be the best way to put it.
He buried him for his age.
Yeah, and Cash blew him off. And it turns out they're not having a match anyway, so who cares? Doc came to the ring, called out Sting. He was happy and having fun for a while, and then he started to get irritated and get angry, and then a bat fell out of the sky, and then he got angry but a little scared, and then they went to commercial, and when it came back, he was just gone. That was the whole angle.
Yeah, kind of a waste of time. Where was Sting? Especially when we find out later, apparently he was just in the back.
Yeah.
I was going to jump forward. I was going to talk about what I remembered at any given time. So, at the end of the show, Sting makes his big return. He just walks down the ramp.
Yes.
Like, I don't need to see anybody. I don't want anyone in wrestling to repel anymore after what happened with Owen Hart. But it was like the bat fell from the ceiling. There was a cage match with an open top. I was like, well, they must be doing the repelling gimmick where he's going to come down from the ceiling, land in the middle of the cage, and run wild on everybody, like back in the day. Nope. Didn't even come through the crowd.
No crowd.
He just calmly walked down the ramp.
No music.
Not even running.
No pyro. No
nothing.
Video.
He just walked down the ramp, and he got into the cage, and he started beating up men.
He walked down the ramp to fight here the way I walk out to check my mail.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. It was lame.
We'll get to that.
Brooke Hogan told a cameraman she had not spoken to her father yet. You recall the only thing she did last week was say, "We're leaving to go talk to my dad." So 7 days had passed and she had failed to speak to him. Kid Cash wrestled Christian York. They crammed a lot of wrestling into a little time. Christian York won a match.
He won a match.
He hit his neck breaker. He got the win. So he advances to the finals of their little tournament. And as soon as he won his first match back, it was to the back. Which I have not said about Impact for a while. We had to go to the back for a segment that makes less sense the more I think about it. We had to go to the back for a Chavo Guerrero promo, which in and of itself seems like a bad idea. So what happened here was that Chavo cut a promo on Joey Ryan. And Chavo cut a promo on Joey Ryan to hype up a match between Hernandez and Matt Morgan.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Okay. I'm not wrong. I am not wrong. So, it was Hernandez versus Matt Morgan. At least it was supposed to be. Morgan came out in street clothes with his arm in a sling. Said he had hurt himself lifting weights. He vowed to be back for Genesis, but he could not wrestle tonight. So
in hindsight, what a stupid angle this was.
Yeah.
Matt Morgan claims he's got a gimmick arm. He's got a bad arm, and he's got a cast on it. And so he stands outside the ring, and within literally 4 minutes, the cast is off and he's beating up men. Hell of an angle. What's so funny?
I'm agreeing with you.
He's completely orange. He looks...
His skin, there's no human being should have skin this color.
No, he looks like some sort of he looks like a I can't even say a pumpkin.
No.
He looks like some sort of goblin. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe him. He's just
obscure squash.
Really weird looking, and he's got a big ass beard.
Yeah.
And he has not changed one bit. He has one move. He did his discus clothesline. and then just stood there and looked menacing.
Yeah, so he beat up the Mexicans. That's what all this boils down to.
Oh. I just don't get it. And whatever happened to the robe? Whatever happened to the gimmick with Hogan trying to bring out the best Matt Morgan? Whatever happened to any of this?
Don't know.
Because I ain't getting the best Matt Morgan right now.
Actually, I think you are.
Oh. You're right.
Sorry. Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe had a meeting backstage with Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff. Angle asked them to stay in the back. They said they wanted to be out there. Joe started to tear into them. Kurt calmed him down. He convinced them to stay in the back. He reminded Joe that they were going to unmask the entire gang and they were going to start tonight. And Joe was happy about that.
Joe is such a dick. It used to be kind of annoying to me, this character. But now it's like, it's been so consistent for so many years that I now respect this character. He's just a dick.
They were, as Kurt noted, being respectful.
He's always a dick, whether he's a babyface or a heel. It's part of the problem. I can never figure out if he's a babyface or a heel. Because he's always a dick and he's always angry.
Yes.
He's an angry Dick Samoan all the time.
Yeah.
I guess that's respectable. He's consistent.
They teased the upcoming Knockouts match by showing all the girls stretching, including Brooke and Tessmacher blatantly bending over for the camera. Hulk came out. He apologized for taking last week off, but said he needed the time to deal with seeing Brooke and Bully making out in the parking lot. Proving once again that
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So he took the entire last week off to deal with this subject, but somehow he still never spoke to his actual daughter?
Apparently dealing with it just meant sitting back and going, Yes, there was no communication involved. He just needed a week off. So he called them both out. Brooke and Bully Ray came out together. Brooke was wearing knee-high boots and the shortest shorts possible. Apparently this is just how she walks around. So Hulk said that Bully Ray always liked to talk about being old school and showing respect, but now he had violated the code. He wanted to know why. Ray admitted Hulk was right. He said it should have been honest from the get-go. Should have told Hulk that he was seeing Brooke from the beginning. And he said that, admitted Hulk was right, and this made Hulk even more angry. Said Ray had no business being a wrestler. He was suspending him without pay. And as for Brooke, she made her decision. She had to live with it, and he ordered her out of the ring too.
I thought this was a great segment, actually. I thought it was great because Hulk Hogan is an angry, crazy father who is behaving irrationally. Great! As long as I have a logical explanation for logical behavior, great. Hogan was just a crazy man here. He just lost his mind because his daughter and Bully Ray were a couple. And so he acted in a completely irrational manner. Everybody booed his decision. I thought his promo, he delivered it great. It wasn't his usual promo where they gave him a big script and he has no idea what the hell he's talking about, so he just bumbles through it. This is a great promo. If he found something he can sink his teeth into, Bully and Brooke were... even Brooke, she's fine. She just had to stand there and be appalled at her father's behavior, which I'm sure isn't difficult. And that was that. So, thumbs up segment. I'll let her know where the hell it's going. Hogan versus Bully ain't happening. So, I don't know. I presume that, there's a big attack. Hogan's being beaten on. Bully makes a big return. Appears to save Hulk, but then turns on him. And Brooke turns on Hulk as well. And the story is that Bully actually was a good guy, but Hogan turned him back to the dark side, and Brooke's gone with him, and we have a Brooke versus Hulk feud. Yeah.
Okay. Our final journey to Louisville, apparently. Danny Davis in Ohio Valley admitted that they had done his best to run Joe Park off, but he had failed. They could not deny that Joe had passion. Joe said he'd been watching tapes. And they showed him watching an iPad. He said he had a long way to go, but he also knew he had potential. He met with Danny Davis and thanked him for everything, and Davis wished him good luck in his career, and that's it. Joe is a wrestler. He graduated wrestling school.
Very uplifting segment.
Yeah. Gail and Tara versus Mickey and Brooke Tessmacher in what I would be surprised if this was not the longest women's match on national television in this century. Apparently it went 13 minutes.
That's a very good match.
It was good. I didn't say it was bad. I am not used to seeing women on TV wrestle this long. There was one part in the middle where it kind of fell apart, but it was in the middle, and by the end they had totally recovered. It didn't really matter. And finally, Mickey got the hot tag. She was running wild. Places going nuts. Brooke hit a dive from the top rope onto Tara and Jesse. And then Gail missed a corner charge, and Mickey hit her jumping DDT for the win. It was a fun TV match.
Spot where Tara did her somersault leg drop over the ropes onto Brooke, and I think she smashed her fucking head with her knee brace.
That sucks.
You could just see that everyone was trying to figure out if everybody was okay, and Brooke was apparently all right, but I took that move once from the son of the missing link, and he leg dropped me so hard. I don't think I suffered a concussion because I had no real concussion symptoms.
But it hurt?
Wasn't knocked out, didn't vomit, no dilated pupils, none of that kind of stuff. But, man, he hit my head, and it was like the Death Star blew up in my brain. Just that giant explosion. I was like, what the hell was that all about, you idiot? And,
well, I know the answer to this.
Yeah, nearly.
It was about he was not a very good pro wrestler.
Yeah, he nearly killed me.
Yeah.
It was about my 4th match or something like that, 5th match. But, yeah, that move sucks. And he didn't have a leg brace on.
Aces and Eights had a meeting talking about how important it was to keep their masks on. ODB cut a promo. She said Sting was back, but her husband was not. She said Eric was rehabbing at home. Vowed that he would one day walk back into the Impact Zone and she would be by his side. This is also uplifting. Roode and Aries stormed into Hogan's office, saying a 3-way title match was a horrible idea. Hogan said the match was official. It would be an elimination match. And for next week, he booked the 2 of them as a team against Jeff Hardy and a partner of his choice. So they both left even more pissed off than they were when they came in. Main event, Joe and Angle versus the Aces and Eights in a steel cage match for no reason.
Not only no reason, I was baffled when I saw this announced on the TNA website today. It's like, what? Angle and Joe against Aces and Eights in a cage match? Why? Is there a reason for this match? I mean, obviously they're all feuding and everything like that, but this seems like a blow-off kind of encounter. And Kurt Angle gets locked out of the cage after they slam the cage around his head.
Yeah.
A spot that 25, 35 years ago, however long, 30 years ago, actually. A spot that 30 years ago was, like, revolutionary and changed the business. Mm-hmm. Now, in this match, I swear to God, Kurt Angle had the cage door slammed on him 3 times. 3 times! So they double-teamed Joe forever. And jumping ahead.
You know, before you even get to that point, just think about this. Doc runs down and lays out Kurt Angle, and then proceeds to lock the cage door. And Joe and the ref are just standing there watching this. Mm-hmm. The ref just says, "Oh well," and calls for the bell.
Ring the bell. Yeah, that's not fair.
This was stupid.
They also couldn't get the locked. That's funny. Live show. And jumping forward, at the end of the show, there's the big wild schmoz, 8 million Aces and Eights guys beating up the baby faces. Sting saunters his ass down the ramp and gets in the ring, that whole deal. My whole question was, where was Sting when it was 2-on-1 against Joe? Poor Joe trapped in a cage being beaten on 2-on-1. Where was Sting then?
Apparently he wanted to give Joe a chance to win his match.
Apparently he's tying his boots up or putting his paint on. I don't know. So Kurt finally gets in.
Oh, wait, you're the same guy who said Alberto should not have interfered on Raw.
I said, well, that is a fact, but it's different. It's a completely different scenario. I don't think the fans would have been sad for a babyface to save a babyface who was being killed 2-on-1 by geeks.
He was being killed by geeks, but he survived, and they won.
That's true. So Angle won, and then all the geeks hit the ring, and
Angle got better.
An 8-on-2
Didn't mention that, yes.
geek attack, or however many. And finally, Sting comes down with his bat and clears the ring. Mm-hmm. And it was quite anticlimactic.
I'll say.
Is the best way to put it.
This may have been the lamest return I've ever seen.
It was amazing.
He was just there.
This return was like mind-boggling because they ran a bunch of cool commercials for 1-3-13.
Yes.
And it was like a mystery man's coming. Who's coming? It's a mystery. And all of a sudden, like 2 weeks ago, they just announced Sting's coming back. And you're like, oh, all right, cool. So they do another week or so, and then finally here we are on the show, and Doc calls out Sting early. No Sting. Never even shows up there for that segment. And then at the end of the show, he just literally is noted, no music, nothing. He just all of a sudden walks down the ramp, gets in the ring, beats up some dudes with a bat. I don't know. Maybe my standards are too high for my returns. But as far as returns go, on the grand scale of returns, this one was lame.
It was pretty stupid.
That's Impact, everybody. What does any of this have to do with anything? I don't know. We got one match announced for the pay-per-view. What is the pay-per-view? No, it's
Genesis.
Oh, yeah. Let's see when this is, actually. Now I'm baffled. See if they've got a card. TNA Genesis. Oh, God, I almost had a heart attack. It said January 8th. That's January 8th, 2012. I don't even see a date for 2013. When the hell is Genesis?
TNAwrestling.com.
I Googled
Sunday,
Genesis.
January 13th.
All right, so they got another week. Any card?
Aries, Hardy, Roode, World Heavyweight Championship.
That's it?
Let's see. Featured news, January 13th on pay-per-view and at TNA On Demand. New title matches announced. They did. They announced their X Division finals and the title match on that show.
So they got two matches.
Yeah, okay, here's what's on this. Aries, Hardy, Roode. Morgan and Ryan versus Chavo and Hernandez. More matches announced every Thursday.
So they have two matches.
Here's where you can buy the song. They did announce Rob Van Dam. They're going to do on the show. It'll be Christian York versus to be announced, and the winner of that will face RVD.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, everybody. We've got one more show, and they've got to put together 7 matches, I believe, on that show. Maybe 6. Welcome to 2013 in TNA. Should we do Impact?
Well, I'm here. May as well. All right, Impact. I actually noted I like the show. What?
I just heard quite the ruckus.
Your wife has the...
I see.
Yeah. I assume either that or your cats are destroying your laundry room.
It could be. Wouldn't be the first time.
Sting came out on Impact, not in your laundry room. Came out with Kurt Angle, who he called Shooter, and Samoa Joe, who he called Killer. He announced himself versus Doc for the pay-per-view. They all took turns saying mean things about aces and eights. Kurt called out Mr. Anderson, wanted to know whose side he was on.
Do you remember when we used to have Shooter Clown?
Yeah.
What was the little clown's name?
I think it was Heckles.
Heckles.
It was Shooter Clown, who you called Giant Clown.
That's right, because he was giant.
Because he was
a giant clown.
He was the larger of the two.
These were wrestlers,
he was
everybody.
smaller than me.
Wrestlers.
But I think it was Heckles the Clown.
That's right. I think Tim called him Idiot Clown, if I recall correctly. Remember that?
No.
I
believe you.
I seem to recall this. Anyway, I saw that when Kurt Angle was called Shooter.
You thought of Shooter the Clown?
Yeah, because like his gimmick was he was a clown. But apparently he was like a good wrestler, so he was Shooter Clown.
Shooter the Clown was his name, yes.
Shooter the Clown.
They did an ICP knockoff gimmick.
Yeah.
And there was one fan who, they were his favorite team because they were the ICP knockoff team. And then Shooter turned heel. He laid Heckles out. And that fan was pissed.
I remember I had a match with Heckles.
I think it was before I started wrestling.
I can't remember any details, but I remember I gave him the hardest clothesline I ever gave anybody in my life. I can't even remember what happened. I can still see the moment in my mind when I clotheslined him. Something must have happened in the match. I don't remember. All right, move along.
So, Sting's out there with Shooter and Killer. Announces himself versus Doc for the pay-per-view. They all said mean things about the Aces and Eights. Kurt called out Mr. Anderson. He wanted to know whose side he was on. Anderson came out and he told the story of the last time he was on the show, and why this was not a video package, I don't know. But he said that he had been coming out to team with Sting when the Aces and Eights had kicked his ass. No one came to help him, and in fact, Sting just moved on and teamed with Bully Ray. I vaguely remember this happening, actually. So that pissed Anderson off, which is why he's at least thinking of joining the Aces and Eights. Angle dared him to get in the ring. We got in the ring, they brawled. It went badly for Mr. Anderson, as you can imagine, and he fled. We had a gut check segment later, and they've changed it now. So instead of somebody on the roster beating a rookie, it's two rookies, one beating each other. And then after they have a match this week, the next week, the judges will determine which one gets a contract.
I expected this to be a disaster, or at least potentially disaster, in the sense that, I'd go in there and make you look as bad as possible in order to try and get the contract.
Yeah.
While making myself shine.
Sure.
But these guys didn't do that.
They were professional.
They had the best, I don't know if it was the best, but it was one of the best gut check matches of all time.
It was
wrestling each other.
It was a good developmental match.
We'll talk more about that when we get to it.
Yeah, the first guy they profiled here was Jay Bradley, who I swear was in Ohio Valley like a decade ago.
Yeah.
And he, in fact, did say that some of the guys he had broken in with have become big stars. A random camera guy ran into Brooke Hogan backstage. She said she and her father were going to air their dirty laundry on national TV again. It's almost a direct quote. Zema Ion wrestled Kenny King. The winner of this would face Christian York at the pay-per-view, and the winner of that will face Rob Van Dam on the same pay-per-view. The announcers broke the news. They're going to 4 pay-per-views a year. They tried to put as positive a spin on it as they could.
I was positive that I don't have to watch.
I am very positive about it.
Yeah. I don't know how these Friday shows are going to do, though. Especially at the moment right now.
Are you going to do Friday shows often? Are we doing Friday shows often?
No, that's they're doing taped shows on all of the months. They're not doing. You don't know what's going on, do you?
I know they are doing shows to make up for the pay-per-views they are not doing, so they can fulfill their international television.
You are incorrect.
Fine.
That was original.
All right, I don't know what's going on then.
They're cutting to 4 live Sunday pay-per-views a year.
Right.
The other months, they're going to be airing. I forget what they're calling them, but they're, I believe, $9.95 Friday night taped pay-per-views. So the show that they're taping tomorrow or today, the 2 shows, those are going to be your tape shows in, I believe, February and March.
So are you still getting those?
I think I'm going to have to. Yeah, they're on Friday night.
I'm going to quit if you don't get them.
Well, you're probably right, but it's my job. No one's going to quit, Vinny, if you don't cover Saturday's football game.
Yeah, but I like watching football.
Well, maybe the shows will be good.
All right.
Sometimes the best TNA shows they've ever done have been taped shows that are supposed to be nothing shows.
All right.
We're getting all X Division matches and a Joker's Wild tournament.
Wasn't that the worst? Well, I can't say the worst tournament they ever did.
Actually, I can't wait.
So many shitty tournaments.
I can't wait for that one because they're taping a Joker's Wild Incredible Partners tournament tomorrow, which is going to air in May.
Really?
Yeah. That'll be something else. Why would you... I mean, did no one think for 1 second? Why would you tape an Incredible Partners tournament? A tournament where the entire pull of the tournament is that people that don't like each other are teaming together for a show that's not going to air for another 5 months! That was their idea, however.
I don't know what to tell you. So anyway, they had this match here. Kenny King won. And he grabbed the mic and he vowed to win the title on Sunday. Robbie E asked Brooke Tessmacher if she would be his tag team partner tonight against Tara and Jesse. Brooke told him, quote, "You disgust me." And also, quote, "I would never tag with you, you idiot." Finally, he was desperate. Finally, she agreed, but only if she could team with Rob Terry instead.
That's the kind of attitude we need on this show when she's 85. Someday Brooke Tessmacher can be the new granny.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
We had the greatest Joe Park segment of all time. I don't think this can be argued. Joe got to the building. He was in a sweatsuit. And he had his, the gear and the rolling carry-on bag dragging along behind him. He's talking to the camera, and he says he's back after all his hard work, and he's ready to go, and he's going to talk to Hulk Hogan tonight, but it won't be as an attorney. At this point, he dramatically whipped his glasses off. It'll be as a wrestler. And he turned to open the door to the building. Gave it a mighty yank. The door refused to budge. He almost fell down. He tried one more time to open it. And he turned to someone off camera, kind of half laughing, and said, "Door's locked." I laughed until I was dizzy at this.
Yeah.
This is so great. It was clearly... when Bob Ross did the Joy of Painting and talked about happy accidents, this is what he meant. This is something where it was not planned, and it turned out 1,000,000 times better that way.
Or Joe Park is even more awesome than you imagine.
If this was the way it was scripted to go, then he is the most amazing man in wrestling that's ever been. God, this is funny. Jesse and Tara wrestled.
Hey, robbled?
They may have robbled. They wrestled, if you want to call it that. Robbie T and Brooke Tessmacher.
Didn't the Hamburglar used to say that?
He said robble.
So they only robbled once.
They robbled, apparently. That's what I said, so can't deny that. What's funny is that I didn't type robble, I typed Robbie. When I saw the word Robbie, my brain went robble.
Say that again. My brain went robble.
When I saw the word Robbie, my brain went robble.
All right. Someone's got to make a song out of this. Was there a Hamburglar song back in the day? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I do remember the time I got my head caught in Mayor McCheese's hat. It's very traumatic.
How'd you get out?
Yanked. I thought they were going to have to cut my head off.
That would have been sad.
I know I've told the story before, but very quickly. I was in Mayor McCheese back when they had these giant metal contraptions that you crawled in as a child.
Yeah,
and,
I remember this.
Yeah, and his hat had holes in it, and you could stick your head out the hole. I think. I don't know if you were actually.
I think it was his head. I think
he had a hat on, and you crawled all the way up to the hat and stuck your head out. I could be wrong. Let me Google Mayor McCheese.
Mayor McCheese head.
see if they've got like if anybody actually took a photo of an old Mayor McCheese gimmick. Let's see here. It's just a bunch of
put in like Playland or something.
Yeah, there it is, right there. Yeah, he definitely had a hat on. See? Mayor?
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah.
He had a hat on.
There's a hat there, and you can stick your head out the sides of his head, and then he actually had a hat too.
Yeah. So all
right, we were both right.
Yeah, I crawled all the way to the very top, and he had his hat, and I saw there was a giant hole in his hat that I presume that's what you stick your head out of, because I was a kid, and I stuck my head out of the hat, and I realized when I tried to bring my head back into the hat that my ears were preventing this from happening. Because of the way your ears are set on your head. Your head can just barely fit, but then when you try and go the other way, your ears prevent it from occurring. And I was stuck. And my mom and Granny, everybody was inside drinking coffee, not paying any attention to Brian, whose head was stuck in Mayor McCheese's hat. And I didn't know what to do, and I was getting progressively more panicked until I heard sirens. And I presume these sirens were coming for me. And so I pulled, and I can't even make the noise. Something like that. My head popped back out. Hurt the shit out of my ears. But I got my head out of Mayor McCheese's hat. And that was the last time I ever went to that contraption. Hated McDonald's ever since. What the hell? Oh, Robble. I couldn't figure out how the hell we got on that tangent. Anyway.
Okay, apparently, I looked more into this. There was Mayor McCheese, but there's also Officer Big Mac.
Dude, yeah, it was Officer Big Mac. I got a picture right here with the hole. I'm sending this to you right now.
I'm looking at it. Okay.
With the hole?
Yeah. He's got there's the hamburger with eyes, and you can stick your head out like between the two patties, and then he's got a big blue hat on top of his head with a hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
On Flickr, right?
This is on retrojunk.com.
Yeah, Retro Junk is the...
Oh, I remember the old school tables. Because it was all McDonaldland, so they... Like the seats were pickles, I guess.
So what's this guy if he wasn't Mayor McCheese? Captain...
Where the hell did he go? Chief Big Mac.
Chief Big Mac?
Or Officer Big Mac.
See, I think you're wrong, because this Flickr photo identifies him as Mayor McCheese.
Well, I'm looking at one that has both. There's the guy in the blue suit.
Come here and look at this real quick.
Hang on a second. I'll send this. Copy Gmail.
I'm going to send this to you.
That works, yeah.
No one cares about this show anymore.
I've lost interest long ago. Retro Drunk. Paste. Send. All right.
Go. Granny just emailed me with an update, by the way, as I email this to you.
How's she doing?
The band name is Danny and the DeVilles, she says. Duly noted. Duly noted.
Here, in fact, let me send you this picture, too, because this picture clearly shows Mayor McCheese on one side. Whoops, what the hell was that?
All right, I'm looking at your deal here.
Copy image.
Oh, my God. This is actually quite the terrifying...
Someone put together a lot of work on this, yeah. Scroll. Wow, this is a giant thing. Search for the word characters.
I remember that big Grimace thing there, the Grimace bounce and bend.
I have often grimaced where I bounced and bended.
God, I'm old. I remember all this stuff. If I showed this to, like, Clifford, he'd think I was from, like, another... I guess I was from another century.
That's true.
Yeah, the Chief Big Mac Climber. That's kind of what it was. So it's more like the one that I sent you, the Mayor McCheese.
See, that's what I'm saying. That one... It's, okay, yes, the person who took this picture says Mayor McCheese, but again... There's Mayor McCheese and there's Officer Big Mac. Scroll down, do a search for the words.
I see it. Yeah, I guess.
Because there's a cast of characters, and there's two different hamburger-headed mutants.
God, if you go to retrojunk.com, there's like 8,000 comments of people talking about their 5-year-old birthday parties at the local McDonald's with Mayor McCheese.
And I remember the Filet-O-Fish little writing things, too. And the tree tables.
I should put a comment there about how when I got my head stuck in Mayor McCheese's hat. Share that with the world. All right. Let's
Back to
proceed.
Impact?
Yes.
All right. So Robbie and Brooke squashed them like a minute. Pinned Jesse with a powerbomb. So Robbie E gets in to celebrate with Robbie T and Brooke, but suddenly Rob Terry's wacky dance music starts to play. He starts pumping his fist and moving. Brooke thought this looked like fun, so she started to dance with him. They did like the Dirty Dancing style pose, and Robbie E couldn't believe what he was seeing. And then Rob Terry planted a big kiss on Brooke, left her lying, and made his exit.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
I enjoyed it.
Not as fun as the Mayor McCheese discussion we just had.
I'm busy looking at all these pictures that I grew up with.
The other gut check guy was named Brian Cage. He said his family wanted him to quit, but he didn't. Had the match, Jay Bradley versus Brian Cage. As noted, this was a really good developmental match. It was better than most indie matches. It was better than some WWE or TNA matches. Bradley won with a lariat that they called the boomstick, which is really funny if you've read Chris Jericho's second book.
I thought it was a good match.
Yep.
It worked well together. The only problem was, literally, I could not tell them apart.
Yes, that's true.
I realized if I would have put a little more effort into it, I could have.
You shouldn't have to put effort into it.
But, exactly. 2 guys, good shape, brown faux hawk.
Black tights.
Black tights. I mean, thank God for the announcers identifying each guy, and hopefully they didn't screw it up. But other than that, I'd give, if I had all the money in the world, I'd give both men contracts.
Sure.
But they don't. So only Bradley's going to get it.
Okay, you got the Aces and Eights, right? They're a loud, rowdy biker gang built upon violence, basically. When they're not being violent, they're drinking beer and carousing with loose women. They were having the most low-key, quiet, peaceful biker party of all time. I have been in libraries that had louder, more ruckus going on.
More robbling?
There was much more robble. I can't even say it now. Yes. The answer to the question is yes. So Mr. Anderson storms into this very quiet party. He demands to know when they're going to do something about Angle. The leader announces they're going to have a meeting. He is upset at Mike Knox because he had lost his mask after they had warned him not to. He said, like Doc, Knox is going to get one chance to redeem himself for losing his mask. And if he screwed up, he was gone.
I'm going to play a game here. I'm going back to what you sent me from retrojunk.com.
Okay.
Article 8834, McDonald's. Who each of these wrestlers look like? Or who each of these characters look like in wrestling?
They're the same. Okay.
Obviously, Ronald McDonald, one would state Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yeah.
You agree with that?
That's the joke they've made many times. But he has white skin and red hair.
All right. So next we move to Mayor McCheese. I don't really know who he looks like.
Who's a top hat? He's wearing a sash from his shoulder down to his waist. So I would say one of the beauty queen characters, like perhaps Deborah.
Yeah, there's something about his big eyes. I don't know who it. I'll skip him for now.
And his head is a giant hamburger.
And his head is a hamburger. That also. I don't remember the Mad Professor.
Yeah, I saw him too. And the fact that he appears to be a normal human and not a strange character is actually even creepier than anything else.
The Hamburglar appears to be a normal person of some sort.
He's got at least wacky makeup on and a fake nose.
I say Austin Aries due to the cape.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I actually did this whole game just so I could finally get here to
Grimace.
Mm-hmm. He looks exactly like Abdullah the Butcher.
I was going to say Mabel.
Go down to his wall decoration. If that's not Abdullah the Butcher in his house of ribs, I don't know what is.
Okay, apparently wall decoration appears 8 times. There's Ronald, Mayor McCheese, Mad Professor. I've never heard of this guy.
I haven't either.
Okay, Grimace does bear resemblance to Abdullah the Butcher.
Doesn't he? And for these Fry guys, Mick Foley.
Because they're shaggy?
Yeah, very shaggy.
All right.
Filet-O-Fish Bouncer. I remember playing on that thing as an infant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know who that looks like. Obviously, Captain Crook would be, what was his name? The pirate?
Paul Burchill.
Paul Burchill, yeah.
Or the
Paul
luchador
Burchill.
guy. Who's the luchador pirate?
Ray Bucanero.
Him too, but wasn't there a guy who actually legit lost an eye?
Oh, Parada Morgan.
That's him, yeah.
Then we've got the apple pie tree. It looks like, I don't know.
Giant Gonzalez.
I do remember the apple pie tree, though. I remember all this stuff. It's actually distressing. Some of this stuff started to be after my peak. There you go. And there's that thing, the famous thank you sign. How about that? If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's MC Kids. That was after my time.
I think I just found... Yes! I have talked before about the the trains and spaceships the Happy Meals used to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I just found a YouTube clip for the spaceship commercial.
Really?
McDonald's spaceship meal deal.
Wow. When were they, why were they like spaceships?
Because they didn't... Apparently it's an Australian commercial. These Happy Meals didn't actually come with a toy. They came inside a plastic spaceship.
But why space? What was going on at the time?
Well, because they'd already done trains and boats.
I see.
I don't think there's a better reason than that.
All right, back to Impact. Unless you really need to watch this commercial.
I did already.
Yeah.
Joe Park came down to the ring, called out Hulk. They mentioned Danny Davis and Ohio Valley Wrestling about 16 times. They have done more to promote Ohio Valley Wrestling in the past month than WWE did in all their years and years and years of working together. Joe started to make demands for a match. He thanked Hulk for the inspiration. He thanked Danny Davis for his training. He knew he was still a, quote, Green Hornet. Hulk said he was not ready to wrestle. He needed to get his brains beaten in for 2 years like Hulk had done with Matsuda, he said. Finally, Hulk got fed up, and he just said, fine, whatever you want, any match, you can have it, just leave me alone.
I did love how at the beginning Hogan didn't want him to wrestle at all. Then he was willing to give him any match.
He went from point A to point B very quickly.
Yeah.
So, Joe Park left. Brooke appeared on the big screen, said that her dad had not returned any of her calls, so he wanted to handle this in the ring. That was fine. She was coming out. She was true to her word. She came out. She wanted Mark to be reinstated. Crowd said they wanted Bully. Hulk refused, and he left, and Brooke was sad, and that was it.
This actually is the best Hulk Hogan in years. It's a storyline that he gets.
Yes.
He gets it. He understands it. He understands the motivation here. He understands being a father with a daughter who's branching off. He's been through this before. He gets it. And he's been great.
And he understands why it's probably a bad idea for your daughter to date a pro wrestler.
Especially Mark.
Austin Aries and Bobby Roode were backstage. They were bickering about who had the cooler t-shirt and who should wear their robe to the ring or who should wear their cape. These guys have fantastic comedic chemistry.
I thought this was the second best thing on the show. Third best thing.
It was awfully good.
Their match was better and the main event segment was better. But that's about it. And Joe Park running into a door.
Joe Park had the door going into business for itself was pretty great. They got a great video package of Austin Aries, and it was Austin Aries talking about how much the title meant to him, and he was being all pretentious about how it was important for the company that he win and regain the title so he can save it and carry it to great heights. And then Hardy appears and says he's full of shit. Austin Aries needs the belt to cover up his own insecurities. It's like, this is actually what how heels should operate and how babyfaces should call them out on their own hypocrisy. This is great. Then we had the tag match. Austin Aries and Bobby Roode versus Jeff Hardy and James Storm. I wrote here in my notes, a hell of a tag match, even with Aries and Roode doing the gimmick they couldn't get along. I wrote that before the match started. I was proven correct. They took turns hitting big moves on Hardy.
This was absolutely... If you're going to do the two partners who don't get along, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
This was the best in years I have seen of the two partners who can't get along. Because they can't get along, but they have a begrudging respect for each other.
Yes.
And they really just want to impress the other.
And yes, they have a begrudging respect for each other, and at least in this case, a common goal.
Sure.
They both wanted to beat up Jeff Hardy.
I thought they were absolutely fantastic in this match. Yes. I thought Roode and Aries on this show were better than Daniels and Kazarian.
Well, on this show, yeah.
Yeah.
They were constantly trying to show one another up. They did a couple of spots in the beginning where they bumped into each other, and Aries was hanging upside down on the ropes, crying out for help, and Roode just went over to cut a promo on him to get himself out of that mess. But then once they got control, they were working together. There was no comedy anymore. They were just trying to whip some ass, and then Storm got his comeback, and Daniels and Kazarian appeared. He's brawled with him up the ramp and disappeared, and Hardy hit a stunner, but then Aries hit him with the title belt in the back of the head, and they laid him out over and over again, and they took turns posing with the title belts. Okay, a couple things. Yeah, as noted, their Aries and Roode together were awesome, and they were fantastic in this match. This is like the best built three-way feud I've seen in I don't know how long. Because You have the champion fighting to defend his title, and the two heels who are fighting not just to win, but also to impress and outdo each other. They do have a respectful but jealous rivalry, and it's really not that respectful because they're heels and they will screw each other over the first opportunity. Also, on Kazarian and Daniels versus James Storm, we've talked many times about how we don't understand why Cass and Daniels aren't the tag team champions in every company. I kind of like the idea that they are just going to, as two men, feud with different solo guys. They feuded with AJ Styles. Now they've moved on, and they are feuding with James Storm. And I think that's awesome. They're too cowardly to fight their own battles. They will only fight when they have the numbers edge.
I love Roode and Aries because they're constantly yelling at each other, but it's hilarious.
Yes.
They're two bumbling numbskulls. Whereas you often see the women yelling at each other, and it's just grating, you know? But it's funny with Aries and Roode because you look at them and you're like, why are you yelling at each other? Why did this require screaming? That's what makes it great. I don't even know how to explain it. But like when they're talking about what are they going to wear to the ring? I'm going to wear my shirt. Well, I'm going to wear my shirt. Well, then I'm going to wear my cape. All right, I'll wear my cape. No, you wear the shirt. Don't tell me what to wear.
Yes.
Why are you yelling at him? You idiot?
Yes.
It's great. Great heels.
Yeah, and it ended with Hardy laid out and Aries and Roode simultaneously playing tug of war with the title belt and also trying to hold it over their heads. And I thought, man, this is the best built feud ever, best built 3-way feud I've seen in a long time. A perfect go home angle for the pay-per-view on Sunday, and there were still 47 minutes left in the show. Although it turned out the actual main event may have actually been even better than this. Joey Ryan and Matt Morgan were cutting a promo in their trailer. Chavo Hernandez attacked them out of the blue, and then Chavo pulled Hernandez off, saying, "Wait for Sunday, save it for Sunday." If you wanted to save it for Sunday, why did you sneak attack them in the first place?
Don't think too hard.
Mr. Anderson wrestled Kurt Angle, or at least he was going to. Not much happened. He stalled and bailed for a while. Kurt told him, "You run away again, and I'm coming after you." I was waiting to see how that would play out, but then the Mike Knox appeared. He beat Kurt up with a hammer. And then Samoa Joe and Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff made the save. He made a big deal out of this. They strapped him to the backboard. They carried him out. Sting hit the ring. He called out Knox. That's the name he used repeatedly. Then we had Sting versus Knox. This is fun. They had a fight.
I could be wrong. Maybe I may have started paying attention too late. But I think that Sting was the only guy that referred to him by the name Knox. Because as soon as I started listening for it, the announcers referred to him only as this big man.
Yeah. You're probably right.
Yeah.
So, these guys had a fight. There was no grappling. There was no, I don't know. they just had a brawl. Trust me on this one. So, Knox hit a Stinger splash. Sting no-sold it. He hit one of his own. Then he hit the death drop and he pinned him. Yep. The shittiest invasion of all time continues.
Yeah, guy just got unmasked and he loses. I had to be writing him out of storylines for a month or something.
Why?
How is this? Because they cycle everybody off TV.
How is this different than any other time the Aces and Eights have lost since they've showed up?
They cycle everybody off TV.
Doc didn't get cycled off.
His time may be coming. Vinny, they cycled Devon off starting the day after he won the TV title.
He
won the TV title and did not appear for 4 weeks.
There's that.
So I think they just cycled Angle off. And, this is just what they do. Like, there's going to be 6 women in a match or whatever on Sunday. And guaranteed when it's over, you won't see at least one of them for a month.
Right.
Just what they do.
So Sting was about to kill Knox with the baseball bat when Devon appeared with the rest of the Aces and Eights. They had Brooke Hogan as a hostage. Bully ran out with his chain to save her. They shoved her into his arms and bailed. And then it was time for the main event segment. Sting was in the ring. Hulk Hogan was in the ring. Brooke Hogan was in the ring. And Bully Ray was in the ring. Hogan was pissed off that Ray had put Brooke's life in harm's way. Tore into him. "I don't believe you," he said. "You're not for real, and you're not the man for my daughter." Ray starts talking about his career, 20 years of doing this, all the championships he's won. "I never thought I would love anything as much as I love pro wrestling," he said. "And then your daughter came into my life." He talked about how she had come into his life because she was apologizing for Hulk for being a hard ass.
I hope you proposed to your fiancée the same way.
There's almost nothing in common. Hulk threw his mic down in anger about just Bully Ray just being there, and so Ray takes Brooke by the hand, talks about all the feelings that he has around her he never used to have, and how she makes him laugh, and finally he gets down on one knee, he pulls out a ring, and Hulk Hogan was gobsmacked. He could not move. He was struck dumb. And Ray asked Brooke to marry him, and she said yes. Hulk was beside himself, and I wrote he stormed off, but he can't really storm off these days anymore. He trudged off. He had angry Hogan face on, and he strode up the ramp. Sting followed him to make sure he didn't kill anyone. And Bully asked Brooke, they were so happy they wanted to do this right away, "We should get married in the ring next week." And I was already in love with this. Like, I cannot believe how great it was. And in the very last bit, Bully Ray and Brooke are embracing, two lovers, as happy as they could be. And the camera zooms in on Bully's face. And Bully looks into the camera with a cold, dead stare. Grim. This is a man with evil intentions in his heart. And the announcers didn't point it out. It was just like a secret between Bully Ray and the viewer at home. And then he looked back at Brooke and he smiled again. And the show went off the air. And I cannot wait to see what this fucker does next week.
I really enjoyed this segment. The two things I enjoyed most about this segment were the death stare by Bully Ray.
Yes.
Which I thought was just absolutely like the best thing I've ever seen. It's so phenomenal. And everybody in this storyline has been great. Because it's something they can all sink their teeth into. Bully is I presume, still dastardly heel that's been stringing everybody along. Hogan's been right all along. He is very upset that his daughter is falling for this. I presume she's in on it as well. It's going to be a big angle next week. But the two other things I have to mention are, number one, I love the fact that this has come along so quick. You know, usually in wrestling, you string stuff out, you build it up for a long period of time, but it's actually, I think, one of the keys to the storyline that they just got together and he just proposed.
Yeah,
and he even mentioned, "I know this is quick." And part of his dastardly plan requires this to occur next week, and he pulled it off. And the other thing, I don't know why, a very good chance I'm the only guy in the world, I don't care, me personally, aside from the death stare, the best thing about this was that for God knows what fucking reason, Sting was there.
Yeah.
Sting is there with his face paint on. He's just standing there the whole time. And I'm watching all of this idiocy unfold in front of my eyes. All of this wackiness. And there's Sting in his gimmick just standing there through the whole thing. I don't know why I found that so funny. I have absolutely no idea why. He was just so completely out of place there in his whole getup.
Yeah, nothing to do.
It made the whole thing, like, even more preposterous. Him just being there doing nothing. Why was he there?
I think perhaps in case Hogan had trouble, he could assist him to the back.
I see.
That's my best guess.
I see. I just love the idea that he was there. I don't even know why. I've literally no explanation for it. Except him being there for every moment with the face paint on. You can't really see any expression. He's just... I think that's part of it. Is like, you can't ever tell what expression Sting has. He's always got just this crazy smile painted on his face. He's just standing there through all of this. Just this clown. It was awesome. I love this segment. Hopefully it's not a letdown next week.
Thumbs up for Impact this week.
Hopefully it's not a letdown.
It can't be.
It could be.
No, I refuse to accept that possibility.
It'd be the first time. But I think it's going to go all right.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the stare.
The stare was so great.
It's so great because, like, God forbid they swerve us. You know what I mean? I'd be so upset if, like, Hogan turned on Bully and Brooke.
My thought was he won't turn, but it'll lead to a trap for the Aces and Eights, and Hogan and Ray will team up to beat him up. I don't think it's a good idea.
I just want Bully to
I want to make it clear. I don't want that to happen.
I just want Bully to go full-fledged 100% heel. I just want this to be an angle where we all know, like, they foreshadowed what's going to happen, and we're all excited to see it, and they just give it to us.
Yeah.
For the love of God, that's all I ask. Like, this whole time, I, as a viewer, have always figured that Bully is full of shit. That he is not a babyface. That he is still a heel, and that he is going to fuck everybody in the end. That's, as a viewer, that's what I've been thinking the whole time. And to me, it was a payoff when he looked in the camera with evil intentions. That was a payoff to me as a viewer, and I loved it.
It was awesome.
That's why it was so great, because I have thought all along this guy isn't a babyface. So that was a payoff to me. So next week, I want the payoff to continue. I don't want a swerve next week. I don't want it to be something I don't expect. That won't be fun for me. I want him to be evil, diabolical Bully Ray. And then I want as a viewer to want somebody to beat him up. I doubt that'll happen. But we'll see where they go.
Joey Ryan and Matt Morgan versus Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez. This is TNA Genesis, everybody. I'll sum it up. There's a bunch of very boring matches in the show and a main event that was good to excellent, depending on who you ask. So they're doing this tag match, and this annoyed me. First of all, Taz was ripping on Keneally because it's a mark for indie wrestling, but then he couldn't call a simple backdrop, which is funny. Keneally acknowledged that he fucked up. So then the heels, they got the heat on Hernandez for whatever reason. And they tried to do an illegal switch behind the ref's back. Then the ref turned around and he enforced the rules. That pissed me off. So Chavo gets the hot tag. He is running wild. And he's beating up Joey Ryan. He's going to hit the frog splash, but Morgan comes and just stands in his way. So the Mexicans team out to fight off the Giant. They knock him out of the ring with a double drop kick, which neither guy looked good. And then Hernandez tries to powerbomb Joey Ryan. And they were on completely different pages of completely different books, perhaps in completely different languages. I think Joey Ryan was actually actively fighting to not go up for this. And finally, Morgan got him up, or Hernandez got him up in the sky, and he tried to do a spinning powerbomb, and the result of this was that Ryan fell right on his shoulder and head. It used to be that he would just be not very good pro wrestler, and I would just be annoyed by it. Now I'm worried he's going to get hurt. So he lands on his shoulder and head, and then Chavo runs over and turns him over onto his back and hits the frog splash to pin him. That was that.
This was a bad match.
It was not good.
Bad match, and already breaking up Morgan and Ryan. Good. I mean, this team was no good, but really now we have to see another Matt Morgan push as a single.
Yeah, now I'm worried that they may be on two segments on each show.
At least he was buried in a tag match.
Yeah.
Which I think we talked about the last time Matt Morgan was part of the team and they broke up. Yeah, it was him and Crimson.
And before that was him and Hernandez.
That's right. By the way, Todd...
the depressing treadmill.
This Todd Keneally.
Mm-hmm. I like Keneally.
Keneally, whatever his name is. He is a detriment to this show. I gave him the benefit of the doubt on day one. It actually worked on day one because he was teaming with Borash. He was actually excellent at his job.
Borash is awesome at this.
Then they got rid of Borash.
Yes.
And they just left Todd there with Taz, who he clearly annoys, and Mike Tenay, who is just kind of lost in the shuffle with Todd calling all the action.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you're going to add a third man to the booth, like if you've got Cole and Lawler and you add Ross, great. You've got Tenay and Taz, and you add Todd Keneally, or whatever his name is. This is not a positive. It's a negative. So, this change needs to be remedied. I'm afraid Todd Kennelly needs to, I don't know.
The best guy they have is Borash, and they don't use him.
He's busy doing many other things.
Well, have him stop doing those things. Find somebody else to do that. Put him on commentary. Speaking of Borash, he interviewed Anderson. They can have Christy do backstage interviews. Actually, she's the announcer now.
Like, why isn't Borash on commentary and Todd Kennelly can ask 10 questions?
That would be better. I have no idea what Mr. Anderson was talking about in this interview. He dodged questions about the Aces and Eights, and I gathered he was wrestling Joe on the show. That's about all I got out of it.
I hated this.
Joe wrestled Mr. Anderson. They wrestled. Joe hit his knee in the steps. Anderson worked over his knee like he was Arn Anderson. He's not. And Joe, oh, by the way, Mr. Anderson, I think we've talked about him now for years, established the point. We are not fans of his. His dropkick is much better than Joey Ryan's.
Actually, I thought Mr. Anderson's interview was ungodly bad. Mm-hmm. And then he went out and had a good match.
It was fine. Joe was about to hit the muscle buster when Mike Knox appeared in the aisle with a hammer. This distracted Joe, and Anderson hit the mic check for the win. This was a longer Impact match.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought they both worked very hard. And believe me, I was fixing to hate it because of that Anderson interview.
Borash interviewed Kenny King. He vowed to pull Christian York's dreads out if that's what it took to win. There were other voices in the background we could hear. I don't know if it was the announcer's mics or what. He said RVD was soft. He was no longer the man who used to kick Sabu in the face and beat up Jerry Lynn, and he was going to beat them both tonight and win the X title. I thought this was a great promo. I was like, this is how it's done. He didn't waste any time, made his points, sounded confident, got himself over. This was awesome. And he wrestled Christian York. It's one of those matches where they do a lot of moves, and if you edit it and you just took the exact same match and just cut it up in clips and put them in any order, it would have been like the exact same match. This went back and forth forever. Crowd was cheering for Kenny King because they did hardly anything to make him look like a heel. And then eventually he pulled York down by the hair, which was a heel move. He tried the Lamaha Straw Cradle, but York turned it into a roll-up of his own, and he won. So King was pissed off, and he jumped up, and he hit a very safe burning hammer. Turned him all the way over onto his belly, didn't drop him on his head. So it was because Christian York won, he got a match with Rob Van Dam. This does not seem like
much. What a friendly company.
Does not seem like much of a reward.
You're going to do a tournament, and you must do back-to-back matches.
Yes. Well, they're friendly to Rob, I guess. So Rob came out, and he was trying to let York know, you don't have to do this, we can postpone the match, and he tries to help York to his feet, and York punches him in the face.
I like how the champ comes out and goes, we can postpone this. Why didn't you mention that before the match? Why didn't you mention that when they said it was going to be back-to-back? Why didn't you step up and say, how about we do my match, his match first, and then we'll go in the semi-main? Nope.
So the story of this match was that it was basically the last few minutes of Shawn Michaels' retirement match, with RVD playing Undertaker, feeling guilty about having to finish this guy off. Because it was not a fair fight. There was a point where they were on different pages again, or different pages like the Joey Ryan match. They tried to do an Irish whip reversal, and they just ended up doing a do-si-dos in the ring for a while. And eventually, Rob crossed him on the top rope. He hit that jumping sidekick and hit the frog splash for the win.
I understand that the reason the matches were back-to-back was because you had to tell the story of this match of, the guy fighting, he's hurt, he's got to go back-to-back, he just got laid out with a move, and he's trying desperately to hang on, but he gets beaten in the end. Obviously, that was the story. But the problem is when the idea behind the story is preposterous, it doesn't matter what the story is. The whole thing doesn't make sense. Like, it makes zero sense for this tournament matches to be back-to-back. That makes no sense. So, I don't know. I'm too concerned about this.
We got a Joseph Park promo. He made jokes about Twitter and inside wrestling terms and said he was no longer a lawyer. He was a trained professional wrestler.
After a month.
Well, then he wrestled. He needs more training. Joe Park versus Devon. I'll get to the chase. The gimmick of Joe Park, lousy pro wrestler, has run its course. It was funny once. It was okay a second time. I have now seen it. I don't want to see a veteran pro wrestler pretending to suck at it. I want to see a veteran pro wrestler having good wrestling matches. They attempted to do chain wrestling and amateur stuff. Devon got down in referee's position, began to exchange holds. Neither of them are any good at it. It didn't help. They were dressed up like they're ready for an Arctic expedition. Both just wearing way too many, just layers and layers and layers of clothing. It was very bad amateur wrestling. I expected Kurt Angle to just run down the ring and stretch them both. It got better when they started brawling. Joe looked completely blown up at the end. And finally, Devon threw him into what they claimed was an exposed buckle. It didn't look like it. Joe got a bloody nose. He went into abyss mode. He hit the black hole slam. Went for a choke slam, but he snapped back into Joe Park. And Devon rolled him up and grabbed his track pants for the win. The other amazing thing about this, and it took me a while for this to sink in, the Aces and Eights won a match. Astounding.
Yeah, because the guy who's been training for 1 month went into a stupor.
Yes.
In the middle of winning.
This is what it took for them to win.
I thought this match was a lot of fun. This was not the first Joe Park match with Bully Ray where he was actually pretending to be a guy who did not know how to wrestle at all. Now he's a guy who's got a month of training, so he can kind of run the ropes. He can kind of do some wrestling.
He can do some bad arm drags.
He can kind of do some stuff. So there is progression in this story. So presumably the next time he's got a match, he'll be even better and better and better. And I presume at some point he will be a perfectly competent, perhaps even good pro wrestler. But this was not the guy who can't wrestle anymore. He evolved his character somewhat. You would rather see Abyss falling in thumbtacks for the 9,000th time?
Well, there's that. Borash interviewed Aries. He said the main event was an elimination match, so he and Roode would work together to eliminate Jeff Hardy and then settle things amongst themselves. We had the Knockouts Gauntlet match. Started with Gail Kim and Brooke Tessmacher. Gail won in like 2 minutes with the Eat Defeat. Taz called this a big win. It was the first match in a gauntlet. It was not a big win. ODB came out. Gail went charging up the ramp to get her, collided with her enormous fake breasts, and fell down. ODB went to the ring. She hit her all her moves. When she was out of moves, Gail yanked her off the ropes and pinned her while grabbing what Taz called the bloomers. This led to Gail versus Mickie James. Don't know what Mickie was wearing. There's a lot of tape involved. She ran wild. She tried something off the top rope. Gail escaped by grabbing the referee's feet. Referee, of course, was the one and only Taryn Terrell. And watching Taryn Terrell trying to escape Gail's foot grab, for lack of a better word, comedy gold. And then Gail pinned Mickie with the exact same finish as the prior fall. She rolled her up and grabbed the tights. And this led to the finals of the gauntlet, Gail versus Velvet. So yes, Gail went coast to coast in this. Velvet got new gear and actually a new haircut and new makeup, and I approve of this look. It's nice.
A lot of makeup.
She did have a lot of makeup. And Gail tried to roll up and grab the ropes this time, but Taryn caught her, and then Velvet won with a pedigree.
Story of the match was Gail cheated in every single match, and then at the end, when she got hit with the move, her foot was under the rope, but the ref didn't see it.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even write that down.
So she got hers.
That happened.
This was explained to me. The problem is that I understand that story. I understand the heel cheat, and then gets theirs at the end. However, this story was not about Gail. The story is about a number one contender for the title, who's now Velvet Sky. And Velvet Sky ended up coming in the last person, and she didn't have to beat anybody. She had to beat one girl, unlike Gail, who had to beat 4 people. She beat one girl, and she did it with a foot under the rope, so she didn't even really beat the girl. That's the actual story that was told here, which to me is not a very good story for setting up a number one contender for your title.
It is poor.
I understand what they are trying to, what the story of this match was, but why would you tell that story in a match where Velvet is going to become your new number one contender babyface? It would be better if I don't know, Velvet ran the gauntlet, Or Velvet came in second and had to beat 3 girls. Or the odds were against Velvet, but somehow she overcame them. That's your story because you're building a contender. Otherwise, it's just like, unless they're going to put Gail into another match with Velvet, a rematch, and then Velvet gets the big win or something. But this story here, yes, I get it, but it's not a good story to build up a contender for your title.
Borash interviewed Bad Influence. And he said Frankie had a manager's license tonight.
It's Daniels and Kazarian.
Yeah, they occasionally try to get this name over. It comes and goes. Sometimes, some weeks they're just Daniels and Kazarian. Some weeks they're Bad Influence. They said Frankie had a manager's license tonight, and Daniels vowed to, quote, shake my glorious ass. And he did. He lived up to his word. It was Chris Daniels versus James Storm. Winner was going to get a title shot on Impact at some point. That did not make anyone care about it. For the most part, it was an Impact match that went too long. Oh, the last few minutes were very good. And people were into all the near falls. So Storm hits a code breaker, and he hits a backstabber, and he sets up for the super kick. But then Kaz jumps up on the apron. So Storm super kicks him, and then Daniels hit a move of some sort. The camera missed it. I believe it was an STO. And Daniels grabbed the ropes, and he won.
Good!
Bully Ray and Brooke Hogan came out. They plugged their wedding. They took a video of the fans. Taz noticed he was not recording this video, and they left.
Absolutely pointless.
Well, they gotta use the pay-per-view, Brian, to plug your free TV show.
Yes,
that's their business model. Has been for years.
And you wonder why they cut to 4 pay-per-views a year.
I don't care why. I'm just happy they did. Sting versus Doc. If biting bothers you, this bothers me as far as the illogic thing. They're going to have a wrestling match, but before the match can begin, they brawl over to Aces and Eights land, where 4 or 5 men come out and beat the fuck out of Sting. Then they throw the guy in the ring, and because the match hadn't started, that didn't count, so then they ring the bell, and now it's 1-on-1. That is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So they did this, and
it would be one thing if the ref didn't see it, or
he's just looking at him, the whole thing going on.
Yeah.
Or if the ref said, we're going to throw the match out, and Sting said, no, fuck it, I'll fight.
That would be much better.
But no, what they do is, well, sucks to be you. And at this point, if they're going to let you beat him up with 4 men, why not just stab him repeatedly? Just end it.
The ref literally nearly shrugged when looking at Sting's body and then ringing the bell.
Yeah.
Like, well, here we go.
So, they had a match. Not much happened. Did a lot of chin locks. Sting is old. And then he made his comeback. He hit the Stinger Splash, and he hit the Death Drop, and he won.
Yep.
The Aces and Eights win streak ended at 1 match.
Way to go, Aces and Eights. It's more and more astonishing with each passing day that Eric Bischoff got Goldberg over. Or did anything successful at all.
Ever, yes.
How did you book the NWO? It's impossible. Probably because he had a bunch of guys that refused to lose. That
helped, yes. So a bunch of the guys came out. They're going to beat up Sting, but Bully Ray came out with his chain and chased them off. Borash interviewed Roode. He flat out said, Aries and I are going to work together to eliminate Jeff. We deserve to be world champions, and he doesn't. And then we had the main event, and they told the story they were going to tell, and they did it. There was 2 bad guys, and because it was elimination rules, they were free to work together as long as they wanted to eliminate Jeff and then fight each other, and that's what they did. And Jeff did a crazy dive onto Bobby Roode's back early in the match. But eventually they cut him off, and they were working him over, and there was the can you top this element they did on the Impact Tag match. There's also the element of Roode was giving orders, and this started to piss Aries off as they went on. And then when Roode hit a superplex and Hardy kicked out, this pissed Aries off. He started yelling at Roode. Same thing happened when Aries hit his brainbuster and Hardy kicked out. He just could not comprehend this. And finally, Roode was fed up. He ordered Aries to go to the top rope and, quote, hit the thing. He held Hardy for the 450 splash, but when Aries came off, Roode yanked Hardy out of the way. He tried to pin Aries. They fought for a while. They traded submissions, and finally, Aries had a backslide. And as he hit this move, Hardy, who had disappeared, he reappeared, jumped on top, and they did a double pin on Roode to eliminate him. So now it's one-on-one. It did not go long. Hardy hit a twist of fate through the ropes onto the apron. Aries bumped in the middle of the ring, and Hardy hit the senton for the win. Mm-hmm. Thank God there was a good match in the show.
Very good match. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. They worked great. Roode and Aries are awesome. Great heels. Jeff Hardy, a great babyface. Literally, you could not go wrong, except you had to watch a boring pay-per-view first.
You do, yeah. I cannot say, because this is the only good thing on the show, I cannot say it justified the show. Impact opened with an invitation to the wedding of Ms. Brooke Hogan and Mr. Bully Ray. First name Bully, last name Ray. Ray, Bully. Showed Ray nervous backstage. Spike, Dudley, and Tommy Dreamer arrived. They were in his party. They were all chummy. Brooke Hogan was somewhere else getting her hair done. Well, Brooke Tessmacher.
Her hair did.
Actually, that's what I put in my notes. Her hair did. Brooke Tessmacher and Mickie James and Christy were all there hanging out. Jeff Hardy came out for a promo.
Oh, by the way, I mentioned, I think I mentioned on another show that the hilarity of is shoot, so his name is Mark, but on the wedding invite, he's Mr. Bully Ray, not Mark. I should also add that Brooke Hogan, I noticed on the invite, is listed as Ms. Brooke Hogan, Mizz. Has to be a rib.
So Jeff Hardy came out, and they had the whole place decorated with cake and gifts and flowers and all that stuff.
You better have cake, gifts, and flowers.
At my wedding?
Yeah.
I agree.
Don't downplay the cake, especially.
I certainly agree. So Jeff Hardy standing there, he's the world heavyweight champion. And the fans chant at him, "You still got it." Well, Jesus, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, they're talking, you still got the belt.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So he's talked a little bit of how this is going to be his year when Bad Influence came out. And Kaz talked about Daniels' title shot that's coming up, and Daniels bragged about beating AJ and sending him home, and he beat Storm for a title shot, and eventually they started brawling, and it was 2-on-1, so James Storm ran out to even the odds, and we had ourselves a tag match. James Storm and Jeff Hardy versus Bad Influence. The announcers were pushing Bellator very hard during this match. Mike Tenay said something very close to, I didn't get the exact quote, but something very disturbingly close to, Michael Chandler is my favorite mixed martial artist of all time.
Yeah.
Or in the world.
He said one of my favorite mixed martial artists of all time. Michael Chandler. I mean, what do you expect him to say?
I can't wait to watch Michael Chandler fight.
Michael Chandler's a good fighter on the B show. Can't really say that. So, Mike Tenay...
There is something to be said for credibility, Brian.
...said Michael Chandler is one of my favorite fighters of all time.
Of all time. This was, of course, a good TV tag match. Didn't get enough time to be great, but it was good. Came down to Kazarian and Jeff alone in the ring. Kazarian raked his eyes and tried to backslide, but Jeff kicked out. So Kaz was bitching to the ref, and he turned around and ate a twist of fate for the pin. Immediately, Chris Daniels jumped to the ring. He hit Jeff from behind. He hit an angel's wings onto the title belt. Then he posed with the belts over Jeff's body, and that's the build for the title match next week.
A good match.
It was a good match.
Good match.
We had the gut check judges debating last week's match. Joe Park arrived in Ray's dressing room, thanked him for getting him a shot on the roster, gave him a gift of Cuban cigars.
This segment was awesome.
I am not and cannot do it enough justice.
All you need to know is that Joe Parks, he gives him his cigar, he thanks him, he wishes him the best, he congratulates him, but before he leaves, he cannot help but ask, prenup?
Yeah.
I died.
I liked Bully's reply of, that's it, thank you for the cigars, get out of here. He did. All right, we had the gut check segment.
Quite frankly, it was a very important question I would have liked an answer to. Is Bully Ray getting a prenup with Brooke Hogan?
I would suspect she probably has more to lose in this than he does.
A lot on the line here.
There's a lot of cash involved.
What, all the money she made off sand sharks?
All the Hogan fortune.
Which is non-existent at this point,
That's
essentially?
True. Yeah, that's true. I forgot. All right, so it's gut check time. I could have sworn last week they said these two guys are going to have a match, and one of them is going to get a contract next week. That's the impression I was under.
I think one of them was going to get a chance at a contract next week.
Because what happened was there's two guys in the ring. One of them won the match last week. The other one lost the match last week. So then you got three judges, okay? One of the judges is Bruce Pritchard, who decides, apparently on his own, without input from the other two, that Brian Cage does not win until he was eliminated. So Cage left.
It's possible this was discussed backstage.
So I figured this meant by default that since Cage was out, Pritchard got his contract. Or that Bradley got his contract. That was not the case. They were still going to be voting. Yeah. So then I figured that by default, since Pritchard had eliminated Cage, that meant he was voting for Bradley. But no. They could apparently have turned both men down for a contract. In fact, Taz voted no. He thought the wrong guy had advanced, so he was voting no for Bradley. But it begs the question, if Taz thought the wrong guy advanced, what was the process for eliminating Cage? None of this made any sense.
Well, maybe Taz and Al Snow thought that Cage should be eliminated, but Pritchard liked Cage, but he was overruled, so he had to tell him that he was out, and then he alerted the other guy that he was not voting for him.
So one guy thought Cage should be eliminated, and so he was?
Two guys. Oh. I don't know what happened.
I don't either.
This is a lot of logic going on right here.
No, there was no logic going on here. So Bradley
logical thinking, which I'm unable to do.
He talked about the discipline he learned on highways all over the world and how he was trained by the best, ready to be a star. And as he's cutting this promo, Al Snow, who's going to be the deciding vote, is staring at the mat like he had lost a contact lens.
Actually, what he said was essentially that he had sex with and impregnated several highways.
That is literally what he said.
I'm not making that up, everybody.
Yes.
And he didn't use those exact words.
Pretty close.
But he said he'd hit so many highways that he probably owed child support.
Yeah.
He'd fucked them.
Yes.
That's what he said.
So Al eventually voted yes. And I thought, okay, so that means... Because I figured Pritchard by default had voted yes, but no, apparently not. Now he got to vote. This segment left me dizzy. Eventually, Pritchard voted yes, so this meant Bradley got his contract. Thumbs down! Gut check sucks. We had Kenny King versus Christian York in a Genesis rematch. York was pissed off because King had attacked him after the bell in the match, so he attacked King before the bell here. They fought for a minute.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Pritchard said yes?
Both. He said yes at the very end.
Okay. Well, it didn't matter at the very end because the other two had said yes.
No, Taz said no.
Taz said no. All right, you go on. I'm going to try and do the math and figure out what happened here.
Oh, that'll help. All right.
What were the two guys' names? Brian Cage and...
Cage, yes.
And what's the other guy?
Jay Bradley.
That's right. All right, go ahead.
All right. So they fought for a few minutes. It was not very long. Kenny tried the burning hammer again, but York landed on his feet. York tried a burning hammer of his own, but Kenny King raked his eyes and rolled him up for the win. So you had York winning clean of the pay-per-view, but then getting attacked. And now King got a cheap win here, so York still wants his revenge. Good, simple build for a rivalry.
So Jay Bradley got the contract?
Yes.
All right, go on.
Bully Ray approached Sting backstage. He says Sting was the only man who had trusted him in this company. He needed a favor from Sting. He wanted Brooke to be happy, and that meant Hulk had to walk her down the aisle. He needed Sting to try to talk Hulk into this. And Sting agreed that he would try, quote, because of what you mean to me. Taz left the announce desk to prepare for the wedding. We had Roode and Aries backstage. They were getting dressed for the wedding. I totally lost my place. What the fuck am I? Roode and Aries they were getting dressed for the wedding. They were pissing each other off. Finally, they decided they should be doing their own celebration, and they determined they would crash the wedding and share their objections, which did not quite happen. Hulk arrived at the building. He refused to answer the cameraman's questions. Taz joined Bully Ray's wedding party backstage. They all made jokes about Paul not being there. He said Hulk was not there, and Ray was upset. He said Brooke was a wreck. She needed Hulk to be there, but he was going to marry her either way.
All right. So, I figured this out. Taz said yes to Brian Cage, and he said no, or no, I'm sorry. He said yes to Jay Bradley and no to Brian Cage.
Okay, are you wrong?
I am?
He said no to Jay Bradley.
He said no to Jay Bradley.
He said, I liked the other guy.
Oh. So that means he said no to... So he said no to both?
No, apparently he said yes to, as far as I can tell, he said yes to Cage.
So maybe I made my bubble here I made the wrong way. So hold on.
You got the Venn diagram from hell over there.
So then he said no to Jay Bradley.
Yes.
And yes to Brian Cage.
You're correct, yes.
All right. So then Pritchard said no to Jay Bradley.
No, he said yes to Jay Bradley.
God damn it. This is my problem. So he said no to Brian Cage.
Correct.
All right. And then Al Snow said yes to Bradley.
Correct.
And no to Cage.
We never got his opinion on Cage.
I see. So that's a question mark.
It's unknown, yes.
All right. So Brian Cage had to be eliminated with 2 votes, right?
I guess.
So if Pritchard and Snow both said no to Brian Cage, the whole thing works.
But we don't know that Al... They didn't tell us that Al said no.
Well, this is all
Pritchard
discussed.
just stepped up and said, you're out.
This seems like a lot of Jabberwocky.
Shenanigans?
Sure. I'm dropping pens everywhere.
Oh, wait.
My brain hurts.
Mine too.
And I'm getting phone calls here on my cell phone at 1:03 a.m. and they're not from Granny.
Who are they from?
I don't know.
From your insider sources?
I've gotten calls. I've gotten a bunch of calls today. This call is from Kentucky.
Call him back.
It would be, 3:04 a.m. in Kentucky? Who's calling me from Kentucky at 3:04 a.m. and why?
Drunk Kenny Bolin.
I mean, that's possible. I'm going to try and do an investigation while you continue with this report. I'm going to try and reverse...
Star 69.
Well, no, I don't want to talk to this person. I'm just going to type it in and see what comes up.
All right. What came up?
Kentucky Wireless. Thank you.
Why don't you read the number here on the air? We'll see what happens.
Let's not do that. All right.
Did they leave a voicemail?
We'll find out soon.
Okay. Sting came out to the ring. He called out Hulk. Hulk came out. Said they had both been betrayed by people very close to them in the past. He wanted to know where Sting stood. Sting pointed out that Ray had fought by Sting's side, he had fought by Hulk's side, and most importantly, he had fought by Brooke's side umpteen thousand times. Hogan said that everyone on social media, which I don't know anything about, that's what he said, they were all saying they agreed with Hogan's stance, and he took that to mean he was doing the right thing. He said there was something in Bully's eyes he didn't trust, a vibe he gave off that wasn't right. I will never trust Bully Ray, he said. So Sting said Hulk needed to do this for himself. He needed to do it for Brooke. Hulk said he always did the right thing. He threw it on the mic and he left.
That's what he said.
Cliffhanger.
We're sorry the caller left no recognizable audio. So there you go. Probably a drunk dial.
Gail Kim from Kenny Bolin. Met with Taryn Terrell backstage. She had an iPad. She showed Taryn the finish of the gauntlet match, where Taryn missed Gail's foot under the ropes. Taryn promised to call their match down the middle tonight, and Garen threatened her and said you'd bet her. I think I fucked that up. I'll be right to that later. Point is, she told her to be a good ref. We had footage of Bully Ray's bachelor party at Rick's in New York. I was disappointed.
I was let down as well. I expected this to be much more entertaining.
I did not think there would be nudity here on Spike TV, but I thought there would be lap dances and drunken shenanigans. No, Bully Ray posed next to strippers in dresses, and he curled one of them a few times. They called it doing girl curls.
Well, Keneally.
I think that's what Scott Steiner would call it.
Yeah.
So then that was it. That was a letdown. Gail Kim had a bad match with Velvet Sky. I just like the part where Gail tried the straight jacket neck breaker, and she couldn't get Velvet in position, and finally Velvet just fell down, and so Gail just turned around and kicked her in the back, and then hooked her up and hit the move.
You know, when Velvet disappeared for months on end and worked very sparingly, she came back, and like her first couple of matches, she was so much better than when she left. And now she's back. This was the old Velvet Sky, who just looks like she has no idea what she's doing.
So Gail hit her finisher, and she would have had the win, but Velvet got a foot under the ropes, and the ref saw this. And then Velvet hit her comeback, and she hit her pedigree, and she won. We had a private tender moment with Dixie Carter and Brooke Hogan. They were crying to each other and talking about happiness and love.
So was I, crying.
It was girl stuff.
You know what I did love about this show is that Tommy Dreamer was on it. He's not quite Rick Rude, but he's managed to be on both promotions' national television in the last month. That's awesome.
It's a fair point. And I agree, by the way, that Tommy Dreamer is not quite Rick Rude. We had Roode and Aries came down for a promo. This is awesome because they were simultaneously backing each other up and agreeing with what each other said and making points for each other, and at the same time fighting for the spotlight.
Yeah. This wasn't quite... this isn't Daniels and Kazarian, but I got to bring it up now because I didn't mention it when we were talking about Daniels and Kazarian. Between Daniels and Kazarian and Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes, I love this new gimmick of heel partners who not only don't hate each other, but they like each other and acknowledge each other as best friends.
Yeah.
I think this is fabulous.
Yes.
Whenever Damian Sandow says, this is the mustachioed magnificence of manhood, Cody Rhodes, and my best friend.
Yes.
I shed a tear like Dixie Carter and Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
This is what I need in my wrestling. You're a team, for God's sake. Get along with each other and love each other.
Even the heels should be friends.
Yeah. It's actually almost makes you better heels that you're best friends. You know? Mm-hmm. It's like the old... anyway, I just think it's great.
So Roode and Aries were burying all the current champions. All of them. Said none of these men are worthy of us. This brought out Hernandez and Chavo, who are, of course, champions. And Aries and Roode, who really need a team name. They buried these men, said they were the caterers, and finally a brawl broke out, and the heels bailed. So they're going to feud, and there must be a title change.
Vegan money.
Why, absolutely.
Yeah. I guess he's not technically a vegan.
But he mentioned something about that here. Yeah. They were making jokes about catering, and he said something like he wanted a vegan burrito or something. But yeah. Hulk was in his office. He had a heart-to-heart chat with Sting. Said he showed a picture of himself playing with a very young Brooke Hogan. Said he had spent her entire life trying to protect her from the personal tragedy of this business. So this is not about Bully. He's one of us, he said.
Yeah.
Sting didn't disagree with any of this, but he did say that maybe, Hulk, you've done such a good job raising Brooke, that she can see something in Bully that you can't because you've been blinded by this business. Hogan said he was ready to leave, he was packed up and ready to go, but he always did the right thing for business.
And for his family.
And for family. This segment was awesome.
This was a very, very good segment.
This was believable. This was performed well. It made sense. I understood the motivations of both characters. Like I say, the motivations were very believable. You had the guy who'd been in wrestling his entire life. He had seen all the bullshit that wrestlers do to women, was determined to keep his daughter safe from all that. And you had his friend who had seen all the same bullshit, but still had a glimmer of hope.
I did love, however, that Hogan...
He had faith in Brooke that Hogan did not have.
I did love that Hogan talks about how all I wanted to do all my life was shield Brooke from this business. So what the hell did you let her come into TNA for, you idiot?
Okay, maybe it didn't all make sense. Well, he made a bad decision.
He made a bad decision. How about short sale
Excuse me?
for Roode and Aries?
Because Aries is short
Yeah.
and Roode has money because he sells things?
Yeah. Short sale.
It's not as good as vegan money.
I'll keep thinking.
Time for the wedding. Bully Ray came out in his tux, and then had Tommy Dreamer coming out with Brooke Tessmacher, and Spike and Mickey James, and Taz and Christy Hemme. And as they were going to commercial, they flat out said, Brooke will make her entrance to the ring. Will Hulk be with her? Stay tuned to find out. So they went to commercial, they came back, and Brooke came out alone, and she looked sad.
I loved this. Brooke came out, and she's in her dress, and she starts walking down the deal, and there's no Hulk. And she walks a few steps, and then she stops, and she turns, and she looks over her shoulder, and she pauses, and then she looks back. And she walks a couple more steps, and then...
I must stop you here, because there's a key point. She looked back over her shoulder at the tunnel behind her, and was no farther. She looked back, and we've talked about Brooke maybe not being Meryl Streep. She's very good at playing annoyed. But for this moment, Brooke had a great facial expression where it was... She said, okay. Her expression was, fine. Dad's not here. I'm going to marry this man anyway.
Yes.
She moved on, and then...
Then she stopped again, and she turned and looked over her shoulder, and still no Hulk. And she looked back, and this time she shot Bully Ray a look, like, figures. And then suddenly everyone began to cheer, and literally out of the shadows came the Hulkster.
Yeah.
And everyone cheered and cheered and cheered. And he said, I love you, and he hugged her, and he walked her down the aisle.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
He had his tux and his do-rag on. So the ceremony began. Hulk gave Brooke away. The officiant began to speak. And if you've ever been to a wedding, you know how boring they can be. He was rambling on about unions of souls and companionships. I was begging for some heels to run in. Brooke said Mark had come into her life, quote, like a burst of light. Bubba Ray Dudley.
Like she'd suffered a concussion or died. Not sure.
Tweaking on meth.
Ran out in the middle of the road.
Ray has said that he has started writing his vows this afternoon, but she deserved words from his heart. He said he was a different person around her. He was a happier person around her. The bottom line is, I freaking love you.
That's what he said. You better steal that line.
I wrote that down. So we got to the part where you can speak now or forever hold your peace. For a second, I thought Hulk got a look in his face like he was going to say something, but he held his tongue. They said their I do's. They exchanged rings. They were about to...
There was a moment, by the way. I don't remember when it was, but I just remember looking at Hulk in the background, and he had the Hulk Hogan, look on his face.
He was doing the mustache stroke.
He was, in fact, stroking his mustache and going, Like he wasn't quite sure what to make of this.
He was deep in thought.
He was deeply contemplating what was before his eyes.
Yeah. So they exchanged their rings. They said their I do's. They were about to get to the "You May Not Kiss Your Bride" part when Taz interrupted. Couldn't take any more of this.
Taz!
Yeah. He was shouting about how he couldn't let this go on. He wanted to make sure Ray wanted to do this. Everyone was yelling at him, "What are you doing? What are you doing, Taz? What's going on?" And finally he said, "Well, if you want to do this, I got another question. Is it hot in here?" And he removed his tuxedo jacket to reveal an Aces and Eights vest.
I gotta admit, I think the Aces and Eights thing sucks.
Oh, yeah.
But when he took off his vest and he had Aces and Eights on the back of, or his jacket and he had Aces and Eights on his vest, like, people in the Impact Zone gasped. I'm not making this up. They gasped. And you can look in the background, and women were looking at each other like, I can't believe it. I mean, I was absolutely amazed.
So the Aces and Eights hit the ring. They beat up everybody. Doc and Knox were holding Brooke and making her watch as they worked over Ray and Hogan. And finally they let her go. And there was honestly not enough time at the end of this just to let it sink in, this beating. Because they let her go, and she ran in to check on Hulk, and he said, check on Ray, and the show pretty much ended right there. So, Can't say nothing happened on Impact this week. A big deal happened. I am bummed there was no payoff for Bubba Ray's evil look last week.
Well, there's more to come.
All right.
There's a lot more to come. I will say that if in the end of the day, Bully Ray ends up in aces and eights, this angle is going to look really dumb in hindsight. As he was beaten repeatedly with a giant vase.
Cement.
Yeah. And I also got to say, the Taz thing to me, I don't get it. It seemed like a swerve for the sake of a swerve.
Yeah.
The dude will not and cannot wrestle.
Yeah.
He was an announcer. The last thing we need in this world is a heel aces and eights announcer. That's straight out of like the NWO announcers.
That would suck.
And I think that's what we're going to get. Or, I don't know, is he going to be a manager? To me, it's like, when you got a cushy job, not that, he doesn't earn his paycheck or anything like that, because I enjoy Taz. But when you've got like a job, like you're an announcer, that, how long has Mike Tenay been an announcer? Well over a decade now. If you get an announcing gig, it's not going to make, millions of dollars or anything like that a year, but you got a job maybe for life, except in WWE when you get old. But you've got a job for a long, long time. You just show up, you do a little bit of research, and you just call the action for 2 hours. You don't have to take no bumps. You don't have to get beat up. You don't have to get cut. You're just the announcer. So why he would agree to step out of this role to be like a manager? What the hell happens when this runs its course? Is Taz just going to apologize and go back to the booth? I mean, I would never have okayed this. I would have said, dude, turn Kennelly heel or something. I just don't get it. I'm baffled. I guess we'll see. But not a decision I would have made if I were Taz. But I guess we'll see where they go. Heel aces and eights announcer every week.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah.
I thought I thought he'd just be a mouthpiece. As a mouthpiece, he'd be pretty great.
Oh yeah, but then he's a guy that what happens when. All right, I guess we got to do Impact.
Speaking of things that were great,
this show was awesome.
This is a fantastic episode.
TNA Impact earned the distinction of the best weekly television show with this program.
They are on their way to earning best TV show 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Opened with a long recap of the wedding angle last week. They did not assume everyone watched the show. And afterwards, there was a lot of aftermath of the beatdown with Hogan and Bully Ray being helped to the back. They did not, in this replay, they did not show Brooke Hogan's boobs. And in fact, someone had given her a jacket to wear. So it cut to Keneally and Tenay at the announce desk with an empty chair next to them. They said they would get an explanation from Taz tonight. We saw the aces and eights having, I guess, a celebration in the parking lot. They were revving their motorcycle engines and saying, "Ah!" repeatedly.
It was weird. There was a guy, we'll get to it, by the way. There was a guy that was unmasked that I absolutely could not identify. He just kept showing up. Couldn't figure it out.
So Taz came to the ring with the aces and eights. He did all the talking. He's in there with Doc and Mike Knox and Anderson and Devon and whoever else is in this group. And next to these men, Taz looked exactly 4 feet tall and exactly 4 feet wide.
He was square.
But he was also a complete badass.
Yeah.
The best comparison I have, this was Taz as the Penguin from Batman.
He was the scariest fat guy I've ever seen.
Scariest short fat guy.
Yeah.
He'd take out your kneecaps. So he explained, this is a great promo as far as delivery. It had some weaknesses in the writing. He said there was no way he could pass up an opportunity to hook up with the machine, he said, like the aces and eights that were unstoppable. Apparently Taz has not watched anything that they've done in the past 6 months. The chord's hitting that. He said that his contract that he had signed with Dixie Carter these many years ago was bulletproof. He could not be fired, and if anyone touched him, he would sue and own the company. He dared everyone to try to survive this gang. He talked about a higher power who is really in charge and still to be revealed. And Taz is awesome in this role, and this gang is much, much cooler with him doing the talking. Jesse gave Tara a pep talk backstage, talking about how much better she was than Velvet and how much better he was than all the other guys. And I can't do it justice, but it was awesome. The TNA website, commercial for the TNA website, two things. First of all, they're having a Valentine's Day sale.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. I love you, darling.
Here's AJ Styles action figure.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I can't make fun of them because for this commercial, they took all the girls and put them in lingerie. This was buys. I mean, just go to the website and start buying stuff just because. Even ODB looked hot.
Wow.
Yeah. We had Chris Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. And if you do not think they were the tag team of the year, they were by the end of the show. They cut a promo about Daniels getting a title shot tonight. Frankie said he'd be out there as a manager. Again, I can't do it justice, but it was awesome. The low point in the show, Velvet Sky versus Tara.
Oh, God. Actually, it was only a low point because of the action. Vinny and I disagree strongly, but I think this was the hottest outfit Velvet Sky has ever worn.
Chaps are good.
He's more into the cat suit.
I am not against chaps.
Because he's a comic book geek. Yeah, that's why.
I see.
You grew up watching Wonder Woman and Batwoman. Yeah. It's a fact.
And it's not a fact that I grew up watching Batwoman.
Whereas a normal person like me would see assless chaps with tiny underwear. Mm-hmm. Win.
Well, they'll both win.
Although I do have to say that my pet peeve is always in wrestling. Maybe this happens in real life, but I don't hang around these kind of people. A girl decides to show up on national television wearing a really short skirt or a really revealing pair of underwear or a really low-cut top. She then proceeds to spend the entire time pulling the skirt farther down and pulling the top farther up and adjusting the underwear. And it's like, how about you wear something that you're not self-conscious about next time? You know what I mean? Uh-huh. Like, if you're going to wear it, then, like, wear it, you know? It's like, I don't know. It's like if I got a stupid haircut on national television and then always wore a hat. Well, why'd you cut your hair like that then, you idiot? If you're going to wear a short skirt on national television, then don't be concerned that it's going to ride up a little bit. Otherwise, get a longer damn skirt. Anyway, it's a distraction that just drives me nuts. And Velvet kept picking at her underwear repeatedly throughout this match. So it's like, okay, maybe you need to go back to the cat suit then. So quit worrying about it. It's impossible to watch a comeback. In the middle of the comeback, there's a clothesline and then panties picking. It just doesn't work. Anyway.
So Velvet is still not a very good pro wrestler. I like the part where she took about, I think I counted 9 steps to end up right back where she started. And it was Tara wrestling herself. This was a good wrestler versus a broomstick match, including the part where Velvet tried to head scissors, and Tara was clearly holding her up in the air, spinning her around, and then letting her go, and then just taking a phantom bump. And then they tried to do the finish where Jesse tripped Velvet on a suplex and held her foot down. First of all, he didn't trip her, so she just fell down. And then he put his hand on her foot, but from the angle they were at, you could clearly see that there was no way this hand would actually stop her from kicking out. So I'm afraid this did not work. Kenny King and Zema Ion had a meeting in the locker room. They had a tag match later, and they agreed that they would work together, although each guy thought he was the better-looking one.
Great team. I'm begging for a Bobby Roode and Austin Aries versus Chris Daniels and Kazarian feud for the titles. That will win Feud of the Year.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 awards.
That has nothing to do with this segment.
Oh, what segment were you talking about?
Kenny King and Zema Ion.
Oh, I was confused. I heard the last part of it somehow only. That happens sometimes. I zone out when you mumble.
Or when you watch the show. Joe Park came to the ring for a promo. Well, Joe Park came to the ring for a promo. He said he had lost his match, but he knew he belonged in the ring. He did not belong in a court of law. He said next week was open fight night in Manchester, and he was going to take a week and study all the tape and decide who was going to call out, and next week he was going to get that W.
I did like that after all this time he's been in and around TNA, he now has to find out about everybody.
Yeah.
What have you been doing this whole time, buddy?
Solving mysteries. Kenny King and Zema Ion versus RVD and Christian York. This was shorter than Tara versus Velvet Sky. So the story was that at the end, Kenny King ran wild. He took out RVD. He hit his springboard blockbuster on York, and then Ion dived in and stole the pin. And this made King peeved.
I believe he dove in.
Sure. So I guess they're building to a four-way, I guess.
Sure.
Taz claimed he got a phone call and left. Bully and Brooke arrived, and based on her outfit, it appeared she was trying to get her boobs exposed for 2 weeks in a row. Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff approached Joe in the locker room. He tried to blow them off, but they wouldn't leave him alone. They wanted to know how Kurt was. At this point, Kurt Angle arrived. He said he was not 100%, but he could still kick ass. They recapped the wedding a second time, and then Brooke and Bully came out. They went to the announce desk, but Taz was conveniently gone, so they went to the ring. And Bully Ray said Taz was a coward. So he hadn't just heard himself, but he had heard the only guy who trusted him in Sting, the guy whose respect he was trying to earn in Hogan, and worst of all, he had hurt Brooke and ruined the most special day of her life. And he warned the gang to sleep with one eye open, and he vowed not to sleep until he kicked all their asses.
I still think that Aces and Eights angle largely sucks. But now that you've got Taz as the mouthpiece and Bully Ray verbally feuding with Taz,
yes,
this is great.
This is a great, great promo.
This promo was awesome. Taz was awesome. And you almost forget about all the other dingbats.
Yeah. So he noted that he was still suspended. Hulk was not there. He looked on the camera and begged Hulk to lift his suspension. Sting came out. He predicted Hogan would do the right thing and reinstate Bully Ray in England next week. He also called Bully Ray your son-in-law repeatedly. So apparently the marriage is official.
Yeah, they're married.
Right.
Pay attention, dude.
Austin Aries and Bobby Roode had a meeting backstage. One of them was going to wrestle Hernandez tonight. And the gimmick here was neither guy wanted to fight Hernandez because he was big and scary. So it was the opposite of most weeks of these two, where instead of talking about how clearly they're the better man, they were blowing smoke up the other guy's ass and trying to make him sound awesome.
I mentioned these guys are awesome.
This is the one you were out of the room in this segment.
No, I saw this segment.
You did?
Yeah.
You have to drink something.
I tried to leave during commercials.
You may have left during the Zima Ion one, perhaps.
No, I saw that one because we were talking about Zima's hair.
Zima has amazing hair.
He has some kind of hair.
I'm a huge fan of Zima Ion's hair. He stands out.
Well, he does stand out.
Yeah. So yeah, it was Roode talking about how Aries was too agile and fast, and there's no way Hernandez would be able to keep up to him. And Aries says, "Yeah, but Hernandez is the power man. You're the power man of this team, and you were the longest reigning world champion in company history. You should beat this man." And Roode says, "Oh, yeah, but you beat me, so you should beat this man." And Aries says, "Well, yeah, but it's like you said, I beat you, but it was a fluke." And Roode says, "So you admit it was a fluke?" And Aries said, "Yeah, it was a fluke. You wrestled Hernandez." And Roode said, "Wait," but he was fucked. This is awesome.
These guys are great.
Got a Jeff Hardy music video and then a promo where he vowed to beat Chris Daniels. Bobby Roode versus Hernandez. Bobby Roode is awesome.
God damn, he's great.
Bobby Roode is great.
It's like Hernandez's best match, maybe ever.
I think perhaps ever. And same thing about Daniels, too. And even more about Daniels in the main event. But it's not just he's great to watch. You watch him and you think, I want to wrestle this guy. This guy would be very easy to work with.
Yep, that's what everyone says.
Yeah.
Everyone loves working with Bobby Roode.
I'm sure they do. So Hernandez made his big comeback, and he was about to hit the Undertaker dive when Aries ran down the ramp and he pulled Roode out of the way. This led to the two of them fighting, and somehow that led to Aries fighting with Chavo. And in all the confusion here, Bobby Roode got the win on Hernandez with a bulldog.
A bulldog!
Like this was 1986.
Yeah.
He hit a bulldog and pinned him. I love this move. I'm fine with this, by the way. So Roode and Aries were bickering about who deserved credit for the win, although they did celebrate together. A giant thumbs-up segment.
It's great.
He had a Kurt Angle promo where he was addressing the Aces and Eights and said, quote, "Obviously, you are in it for the long haul." Word. He said he was going to call out Mr. Anderson for a fight next week, but he wanted to call him out to talk now. So Anderson came out in Aces and Eights gear from the Aces and Eights entrance. He talked for a little bit. He sucker punched Angle. They had a brawl. Anderson bailed. Kurt then said next week they weren't just going to fight. They were going to fight in a cage match. because he said he didn't want Anderson to run away. He didn't want anyone else to interfere. Kurt Angle, the last man in pro wrestling who understands what a cage match is supposed to be.
I love during this when Anderson says, I don't want to fight you next week. I don't want to fight you next week. I don't want to fight you next week. I want to fight you now. And he punches him in the face. And TNA and Kennelly are like, aye, what a cheap shot from Mr. Anderson. And Taz is like, he punched him right in the face. He was standing in front of him. It's like, yep, in fact, that's true.
Yeah. Taz actually was fantastic on the show. We didn't talk about him we talked about him as the promo guy, but even heel Taz as an announcer is a huge improvement. There was no let the pigeons loose nonsense. He was just calling the matches. He called the babyface announcers and their bullshit. He talked about how dangerous all the guys were, including the babyfaces. He was fantastic. This is a great improvement.
I thought not only was Taz great on commentary, but Todd Kennelly in the main event actually was good during the near falls. So good work, everyone.
Speaking of main event, Chris Daniels versus Jeff Hardy. Kazarian and Daniels, the team known as Bad Influence, they have the best entrance in wrestling. And all it is their wacky music playing, and they come down the ramp making the biggest douches out of themselves they possibly can.
I have no idea where they got this music. It's like, it's just a generic song.
It's a 4-chord. It's the wrong term, but
perfect.
Yeah.
It is absolutely perfect for Chris Daniels. He must never, ever, ever, ever change his music. And just dance down in the ring like a douchebag.
Yeah.
And be awesome.
Yes. So, yes, as noted, this is the kind of match where you think, God, I'd love to wrestle Chris Daniels. That would be so easy and so much fun. They had a tremendous match. They started kicking out the big moves and teasing the big moves.
I should actually say, to be fair, I would love to wrestle Chris Daniels if I was a babyface. However, if I was a heel, I would love to wrestle Jeff Hardy.
That's a good point.
Both matches, really easy.
That is a good point.
So you put the two men together, and wow, great match.
Yes. So, they started hitting all the big moves, and Hardy hit a face-first suplex off the top rope. He kicked out of Angel's Wings. They missed a lot of moves, too, so it's not like they just kicked out of every finisher in the world. And finally, Daniels tried a second Angel's Wings, but Hardy turned it into a Rana. He hit a stunner. He had a Twist of Fate. He paused to dropkick Kazarian and take him out, and he hit the senton for the win. This is a 5-star TV match. It wasn't a 5-star match. It wasn't a match of the year, but it was everything you want a TV main event wrestling match to be. It was entertaining. It accomplished something. It was fresh. It was new. It was interesting. It was what's the word? It was good. It's not the word I'm thinking of, but it will do for now. And then Taz got on the mic. He distracted Hardy, and as he was flapping his gums, a masked guy ran in and hit Hardy in the knee with a hammer. They're finally doing something with aces and eights. This is the best Impact. This is better than any Impact of 2012.
I don't know if I go that far. They had some good shows last year, but
it's an awfully good show.
This show was awesome. Hopefully, I think everyone knows how awesome Daniels is anyway. But hopefully, if there was anyone in TNA that was unaware, they're aware now. All I ask in 2013 from TNA is A, try to keep putting on shows like this, and B, can we please have Bully Ray and Chris Daniels as champions before a year is over? Because they both deserve it. These are two men. I know that TNA title doesn't mean much, but these two men deserve to be champions this year or next year. They're both awesome. And I really like, obviously it's just started, but I like the idea of TNA trying to be Ohio Valley instead of WWE, in the sense that there is not a pay-per-view to build to every month. No longer do we have to say, they gave this match away for free on television with no build. Because it doesn't matter anymore. There's not another pay-per-view until, I believe, April. So they can just do week-to-week television, just like Ohio Valley used to do, for example, just like any other territory used to do with weekly television. And I think, so far, I really like it a lot better. I don't get pissed off as much. They're not building to a pay-per-view in February. They don't have a pay-per-view again until lockdown. So go ahead and go week to week and give a main event here and there and just, give us a great wrestling television show every week like they did this week. So I'm cautiously optimistic about... Actually, you know what? Not even cautiously. I'm optimistic about this year for TNA. Never thought I'd say that.
I just love this show. That's all I know.
It was great.